Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and I'm back again today with Chaz. How's it going, Chaz?
How's it going? It's doing okay. Let's dive right in.
We are jumping into the second part, the final part of our Would You Rather art review of Eternal Masters. So we did, let's see, blue and black and some lands yesterday. So we're going to jump right in. We got a lot of cards to go through today. So we're going to jump right into the red cards. First up, Firebolt.
Firebolt. Yeah, this one's interesting. I like the old version, but I think I'm sticking with the new version here. Firebolt doesn't necessarily have to be associated with Dragonfire. So, and while I really love the dragon and the composition here, I think the new one, the perspective, like you kind of have this fireball coming at it, this firebolt rather, coming at us like right at the screen, like the canvas, and it's just a little bit more dynamic and has a little bit more of an action to it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the new one too. For some reason, it reminds me of Street Fighter a little bit. And I used to love Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And you definitely get the more action and like the bolt of fire being thrown. When the old one, it's kind of just a dragon breathing fire on things. I don't get the boltiness as much. So I'm going to go with the new one here as well.
Right here, we have the Hadouken. I mean, how do you go wrong?
Up next, we have Mugwar Marshall, a classic goblin.
I really like the old one, but I like the new one better. This one kind of depicts a war marshal better. I mean, I know goblins are a little weird, but at least this one you have like the ornate like helmet, you have the horns, the kind of gauntlet with the skull on it. You get a feeling that this particular goblin, even though they're absurd, is a war marshal. The other one is just like a generic green goblin with an axe.
I think that's a pretty good argument. The old one, if you just said like Goblin Warrior or like Goblin Foot Soldier, I would be fine with it. The new one definitely looks more martial-y to me. So I think we're gonna have to agree for the second one in a row for some reason.
Oh, that's insane.
We are gambling.
All right.
Which gamble do you prefer?
I like the old gamble. Andrew's piece is great. But I like the new one. Maybe it just harkens to like this, like Indiana Jones kind of depiction where you got this massive boulder. But it also feels like the character's taking a gamble. Like they're running out of there. They have this large gem. Like I know it's funny to see this like this goblin like hanging out in the middle of a cave, but I really like the new version better.
I'm gonna go with the old one because to me it feels like the goblin is literally like gambling with his life in that art. So I think for me that one captures gamble better, and I like that if he loses the gamble, he's probably gonna die and ends up in the graveyard, just like the card you discard in gamble. So for me, I don't know. I like the old one better for those reasons. The new one is good too, but I don't see as much of a gamble in that one. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen to the woman in the new one? She's going to trip and, like, skin her knee or something?
I see what you did there.
All right. Now we have some more dragons. Rorik's Bladewing.
Has to be Daryl's version. I guess maybe this is a little bit of a bias, but I read through the Onslaught books, and this is definitely what Rorik's looks like. You have this like long, slender, snake-like dragon, the four wings, iconic, which you get in the new version, but that just kind of seems like a random dragon in the middle of nowhere. Like Rorik's, you're getting the setting of the Colosseum where the books took place, where you saw Rorik's. In this one, it's just like you're in the middle of nowhere with just some random red dragon.
Yeah, I think that's a problem for me, is like Rorik's is a pretty specific character, and the new one could be any red dragon from Dragons of Tarkir. There's no real like character to it or nothing that sets it apart. It looks like every other dragon. So even though I haven't read the books, I still got to go with the old one just because I don't know. I can tell that dragon from all the other dragons. Like, Rorik's looks like Rorik's. When the new one, I don't know. It's just some random dragon. Now we have Carbonize, which is... The art is actually sort of similar in theme.
Yep. I like Alex. It's kind of like a fried chicken right there, but I do like the new one better. It just seems like interesting, this like giant minotaur getting blasted. In the other one, again, you don't really know where you are. Like, you just see this like skeletal, I guess, Aven back in those times. We're talking about Scourge, so the Avens these bird creatures. But I mean, just seeing a minotaur, I don't know, to me is just more visually appealing, getting like blasted away.
I gotta go with the fried chicken. It's funnier to me. Like it just looks more ridiculous, and it kind of looks like there's feathers flying around.
Yeah, there are.
Which is what really makes it for me is you see the feathers flying around. The Minotaur art is also very good, but I gotta go with the original on this one. Next we have get to Slinger, so slinging some damage around.
I was gonna pick the new one, and then I noticed like this, like, maybe it's just me, I don't know. I just don't like this weird like pointing, like I don't know why he's pointing at us. Like that like really threw me off for some reason. Like, why is he pointing at us? It's a little more interesting. Like, you have this kind of the characters rushing at us. He's got the sling behind us, but I really like the old one. It's a little more flat and two-dimensional, but I kind of like this arcing like fire behind the character and the coloring a little bit better in Melissa's version.
Yeah, the pointing is a little weird. It's kind of Uncle Sam, like the "I want you" thing. Yeah. But I really like the action of the sling in the new one. You can just get the feeling of it whipping around, and it looks pretty frightening. Like whatever flaming thing is in there would probably be pretty painful. So I think I got to go with the new one just because I like how the sling looks better. Another iconic burn card, Price of Progress.
Very iconic. A very great card, too. I have to lean towards the Eternal Masters version only because, I mean, Richard's piece is great, but I never really was attached to the art for Price of Progress. Maybe that might be a sacrilege to a lot of people, but I just never really understood it. Like I just never understood why that meant Price of Progress. In this one, you get a little more of a narrative, a little more of a story here. Like this character, she's striking down and all of a sudden like lava's coming out, so that's the price of her progress. Like the other one, you just kind of see these weird, like, I guess structures, and there's like a mist or a boil, like it's boiling to them. I just like the new one a little better.
I have no good reason for this, but I just like how the old one looks better.
Yeah.
So I don't there's no like narrative or any reason. It's kind of wrong for me to say that because I've been saying through some of the other ones, like, oh, it doesn't really like line up with the card name. I don't see any story to it. But this one, I just like how it looks better. I don't see Price of Progress in it. I have no idea what's going on. I just think it looks cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So we talked about Hydroblast yesterday, and now we have the counterpart, Pyroblast. Yep. So yesterday, you went with the old version, I went with the new version, because I like how the two cards work together, so I gotta stick with that. I like how they line up. If you have them sitting side by side, you got the fire and the water going against each other, and it just looks really cool. So what about you, Chaz?
I think I have to be consistent and go old version for this one too. Like, and for all the reasons yesterday about Hydroblast. I know it's very flat and there's not a lot of action, I guess, going on. Like in the newer Pyroblast, you get this depth. It's a little more three-dimensional. It doesn't read so flat. But again, you have this narrative. You have like Jaya Ballard. I know it says in the text, but again, you see this character and she's just using this Pyroblast. You have this like weird Chinese dragon like in the background. I don't know why that was ever there, but it just looks a little more appealing to me, and I have to go with Kaja here for the old version.
I do like the dragon and how it looks like the fire is coming out of its mouth when it's really coming out of the staff. So I like that aspect of it, but I got to stick with the new one and disagree with you.
Yep.
Now we have Tooth and Claw.
Yeah, talk about cards I didn't even know existed.
and it was apparently a rare back in the day.
It's a rare. I'm not really enthralled with like either of these arts, but if I had to choose, I guess it's the new version in Eternal Masters, only because it's like more of a narrative. You have like this giant cat demon about to pounce on this like unsuspecting character. Like in the other one, it's like more like it's just like in the middle of nowhere. I don't know really. There's no like real narrative other than like a dead animal, and it kind of just looks like a hyena. Where it's this like it's named Carnivore, so this is like it's a very generic name. I don't know why they came up with this, but again, like you just get more of a story and a narrative. It's a little more appealing.
I was gonna say that too. Who was writing the token names back? A beast token named Carnivore? Come on.
I have no idea.
But I agree for the same reason. I like that it's sneaking up on a person when the other one, I can't really tell if that thing's about to rescue the animal on the ground from like a mud pit or if it's killing it. So I just gotta go. I gotta go with the new one too because it's scarier and there's more of a story. Up to the green cards, your favorite color, Chaz.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Another iconic creature, really, the nimble mongoose.
Yeah, I love me some nimble mongoose. Both arts are awesome. I have to just go with Therese here. I can't vote against the original nimble mongoose.
I gotta go with the old one too. The new one reminds me of like, I don't know, did you ever see Ricky Tikki Tavi when you were a kid?
Yeah.
It reminds me of like some B-movie version of that story. When the old one, you have a bigger snake and it has, I don't know, it's just the new one seems too normal. Like I could picture that going on in real life when the old one has more of a fantasy aspect with this huge snake getting fought by this little tiny nimble mongoose. The new one's just like, like that's probably going on in someone's backyard right now.
Yeah, definitely. There's more of like a realism factor, and sometimes that doesn't always pay off. In the old one, you have like this giant snake, you have like tons of nimble little mongooses all running up along it, so you get the sense of scale. And this one's just like a regular mongoose, like probably doing what it normally does anyway, killing a snake.
This next one, what is going on in that old art, Chaz?
I don't know. I can't. Nicola, I'm sorry, but I just
it's not even attached to a tree or anything.
I can't go with that. I'm sorry. That's just if I was his art director, I'd be like, what? I don't know what this is.
And what's on the ground? Like,
I don't know.
Some like satchel or something.
Yeah, I have no idea. A shield, or then there's like some bark and like tinder, and like we're in the middle of like nowhere. I don't know. At least like I can see the new one, Eternal Masters, like roots. Okay, I get that. It's like kind of wrapping around and strangling this minotaur. I get that. Like the other one, I might almost want to choose the old one just for a comedic factor, but no, it has to be the new one.
Yeah, I just don't see any roots in the old one, and I have no clue. That when I was putting together the slides, I started laughing as soon as I saw the old art on that. It's just so absurd.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the new one too. Even though, like you, I'm tempted by the old one just because of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
Seal of Strength.
Yeah, an oldie but goodie. I'm leaning toward Christopher's version here. You get more of like a strength aspect of Seal of Strength. Like in the new one, like that, it's like a stag, and that's great. It's like a giant stag, like in the middle of nowhere. It looks like in the forest, but this one, they're breaking out of a cage. You kind of get the sense that like there's a character putting a seal together, empowering this other character in the cage, and they're like breaking out. They have this sudden surge of strength. So I think it depicts the seal of strength just a little better.
Yeah, the old one, I think it does tell the story better. The new one, I just don't really understand how that's a seal of strength. Like the big deer, buck, whatever, looks cool. Like I like the colors on it, and but I don't know. It doesn't seem like seal of strength to me. That could be, you could put any random card name on there, and I'd be like, okay, like whatever, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really normally love Noah's work. It doesn't fit seal of strength, so that's probably not a knock to him.
This one, stop for a second, because this isn't about the art, but I cannot like the new version because of the flavor text.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I can't believe they did that. It's such a travesty. That they spoiled Caracas and all these sweet cards on the same day as Werebear, and I came away from that day disappointed because he exercises his right to bear arms. It was no longer on a Magic card.
I can't do it. I have to go Carl Critchlow here. It's just, yeah, that's like a travesty. You can't have that. There's no way. And you're right. Like we get all these amazing cards, all this awesome stuff in Eternal Masters, and this is the deal breaker right here. The Werebear was the deal breaker.
Well, and it was funny because on Twitter that day, that's all anyone was talking about. There were more tweets about Werebear losing its flavor text than any of the cool, expensive, awesome cards that were spoiled that day.
Yeah. This is, I have to go with the old art as well.
The new art's fine, but
yeah, this we're breaking our credo here. This just can't fly.
Yeah. What about Ancestral Mask?
Love the new art. I don't even think it's a comparison.
Yeah, I agree. Everything else, whatever, the flavor, the card name, I don't really care. I just like how the new one looks.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom line. It's just a really visually like pleasing piece of art. Invigorate, a legacy playable in its own right. I gotta go with the old one. There's this little skinny woman holding up this huge beast over her head.
Yeah.
That's another one of my favorite pieces, just because it's so funny and ridiculous.
Yeah, I like the theme here. Like they're like picking up something, I guess, monstrous. But yeah, in the old one, and I love Mark Zug, but the old one, you just get this like this feeling like this creature is massive, and it's like there's no rhyme or reason why this character should be holding up such a massive beast, or like why any character for that matter. And like just the expression, the look on the beast's face, like you don't like he's like, well, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I have to go with the old Invigorate.
I think even if the woman in the new art wasn't invigorated, she might be able to pick up the hammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the old art, there's no way that character's picking up that beast without being invigorated.
Yeah, absolutely.
This
one's phenomenal.
It is dark. Timberwatch elf.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know what, I love it. I have to go with the new one. The old one's just like an elf, like on a tree, and like while that's cool to some, I'm not really getting the. It's not really aesthetically pleasing. It is a little flat too. Like there's not a lot of there's some depth, but the character's reading really flat. This one, I really like the kind of head-on view here, even though it's kind of the same perspective. We're getting like a 1-point perspective, but yeah, this one just the character's just great. I love this art. I don't know why this is Timberwatch Elf, but it's just a really sweet art.
For me, I don't like the new one as much just because of how dark it is. The overall darkness of the art makes me think black card, vampire. It doesn't really make me think elf. When I think elf, I think of this bright sunny forest with this dorky little green thing. And that comes across better for me in the old art. So
yeah,
I think
honestly, yeah.
I think the new one's awesome, but it just doesn't seem elfy enough for me.
I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what was the one like Elf of the Deep Shadow from the Dark?
Ah, yes.
This one seemed like a shoo-in for that.
Speaking of, well, sort of elves,
yeah,
we have the elf helper bug, Wirewood symbiote.
The helper bug, I like that.
So,
yeah, this one is tough.
This is a hard one.
I kind of like the old version better, even though the new one is kind of quirky, and I like it. Like the bug is just kind of like, it's almost like you're supposed to get the sense that like the symbiote is not a good thing, but this one you kind of almost have like the bug is like almost like smiling, like you get this kind of like comedic bug like over his shoulder, where the other one's a kind of little more brutal, and you can see like the symbiote is not a good thing, that it's like taking over the elf's body and brain, like kind of, you know, embedding in itself into the back of the elf's neck. So I kind of like that a little better.
Yeah, for me, the new one, my immediate reaction to it was looking at the guy's face, so I didn't really pick up on the bug right away. So for me, that's the problem with the new one. Like, yeah, I can see the bug there, but it's almost not the focus of the art as much as the elf is the focus of the art, when in the old one you can definitely see like it's all about the bug. Next we have humble, not humility unfortunately, but humble.
Yeah, I like the original art better. Maybe it's just because, like, again, we talked a lot about narrative, we talked a lot about perspective here. You kind of have these two characters, one is being humbled to another character, where in the new one that could just be like any old, I guess, white card. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like that could be like healing salve or resurrect or something like that. You don't really get a sense that this character was humbled by something. Maybe it's this object in the background, but that it doesn't really feel like that's the focal point of the piece. Like in the other one, you get this narrative between the two characters. One is humbled, and in the new one, it's like very generic.
I just don't know what's going on in the new one. It's just kind of some dude laying on the ground. Like, I don't really get a sense of humility or being humbled in it either. So I think I guess for the same reasons as you, I'm going to have to go with the new one. Maybe if I understood, if I could talk to Chris and ask,
Yeah.
like, what's going on in the art and have him explain what he was thinking and his artistic vision, maybe I would get it. Because I do like how it looks, but it's slightly confusing to me, and I don't really get the humility coming through. Up next, we have Seal of Cleansing. This one is just absurd all around. I think I go with the old one because it looks like toast. I think I see the hands like breaking a piece of toast in half, and I think that's funny.
Yeah, we actually talked about this one before we started recording, and I specifically singled this one out because this one was tough. It's like Seal of Cleansing. They're both depicting like a seal of cleansing. Like you have this rock breaking up. I guess like something bad was going on. You have the Seal of Cleansing. But yeah, I have to go with the original because again, there's a narrative, kind of like Seal of Strength. I think it really depicted what was going on with these cards, and I just like it a little better.
Up next, another member of the tutor cycle. We have Enlightened Tutor. I'm really interested to see what you think about this one, Chaz.
This one was hard. All the tutors were really hard. And again, we go to this new age like tutor, Sahan. They're like grabbing for an object. I love it. It looks great, but I don't think I can vote against Grandma Dottie. I love Enlightened Tutor. Grandma Dottie is where it's at. I have to go with the original one because again, Tutor. We have like the old grandma. She has like this tiara of all these colors. She's holding up this gem, and I just connect with the character better.
For me, I think the tutor art from Eternal Masters, all of them are some of the best art in the whole set, and this one is no different. It's really good, and I like the shout out to Idyllic Tutor and the little birds on the book, so I like that connection and how they made a connection to a sort of similar card. I guess you could argue Idyllic Tutor is a fixed version of Enlightened Tutor, really.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm going to go with the new one. I think it looks really cool, even though I do like the grandma in the old version.
Artifact time.
Emmy's Tome. It's a book.
Yeah, it's this one's tough. I guess the old one, just because it feels like there's more going on. Like you see these like weird ghostly characters in the background. I don't know if that's just coming from the book. And you have this like weird like page holder. It's like a blade. And the new one is just like that kind of looks like Venser's journal. That could be like any old generic journal. Like why is that Emmy's Tome specifically? And this one, I don't know why that would be Emmy's Tome in the old one, but again, it just feels like there's more going on. There's more of a narrative where, in this one, it's just like a generic, dusty old tome.
Yeah, the new one for me is just too generic. The old one has more character.
Yeah.
And the book just is more, I don't know, interesting to look at. Up next, Ashnod's Altar.
I have to stick with Anson's. I know it kind of looks like a page out of like an old Spider-Man or an old like Marvel comic book, but this really weird like head, villains like lair. But I kind of like that. Like the new one just seems like super realistic to me and kind of off-putting. Like Greg Staples did a great job, but I don't know if I would really look at that as like Ashnod's Altar. There's something to be desired for the old one where it's just kind of more out of like a comic book and a little more comedic. I don't know if that's really good reasoning, but it just feels like the new one is like too on the spot for an altar that's like doing weird stuff, like weird experiments.
Yeah, for me, I like the Greg Staples version. I like how you can see the creature kind of getting the life force sucked out of it and being turned into mana. So I think it's really well done, and I'm going to go with the new one. For me, kind of the opposite of you. The old one is just too cartoony. It's just like flat and weird. When the new one is actually like a pretty interesting piece of art for me.
Yeah.
Now we have another random card, Ticking Gnomes.
Oh, this one was actually really hard because both of them are so absurd. But I have to go with Henry's version here because they're like these weird like lawn gnome type of characters that you would see on like someone's front lawn. They're kind of marching. It looks more of like a consistent in the characters. And this one like looks more of like a bottle gnome. I know that's not a card many people would know, but I would have really liked this on like bottle gnomes because they're actually bottles. And I know they're kind of all chained together. You have this like unity and consistency, but just the absurdity of the old one, and you have more of like a setting. I think I have to go with Henry's version.
The new one to me looks like something that would be in like a Pixar movie. Like coming this fall, we have Bottle Gnomes and Friends. I'm gonna go with the old one too for the absurdity factor. Both of them are really absurd. I don't know. The new one's kind of cartoonish. I guess the old one is too. I don't know. I don't have a good explanation. I just like the old one. Now we have Chrome Mox.
Ooh, a very iconic card.
Very.
I can't go against Donato. Maybe I'm biased because I have a set that is signed by Donato. Thank you very much. Like a few years back, I can't vote against it. I love the background. It's very intriguing to me. This kind of watercolor, this pastel look, and you get this like interesting view into the Mox itself, where you kind of see this character looking back, and the emphasis is on the Chrome Mox itself. Maybe it's just me. I don't really like this new take, and we've seen this in Vintage Masters. This like hands holding, this like kind of, I guess, the Mox in this sense. I never really got into that kind of portrayal of the new Moxen, and again, I have to vote against this one as well.
The old one looks like a doorknob to me. So I think I gotta go with the new one. Not so much because of the hands holding the Mox, but I like the faces around the outside, and I think that's a cool way of portraying it. So to me, I really like the new one. The old one is cool, and I like the watercolors, but the new one I think is a little bit better. Up next, another iconic card. Some really iconic artifacts in this set.
Yep, absolutely.
Sensei's Divining Top.
Oh, this one, I have to go with Michael's version. The old one, the emphasis is on a top. Like, I know they're both emphasis on the top. The color actually is really good in Rob Alexander's version, but the other one just seems like maybe I'm just too ingrained, and maybe it's because this hasn't seen a reprint in a long time. But I'm just now ingrained with Michael's version that I can't see myself using any of the other versions.
Yeah, I'm a big Rob Alexander fan, but I like the old version as well.
Yeah.
I don't have a really good reasoning, and it might just be familiarity. I've played Top for a long time, and I'm just so used to wanting to draw it and looking for that art when I peel my card for the turd that I don't really want to switch it up, and change can be scary sometimes, so I'm sticking with the old version.
Yeah, again, Rob Alexander's is great, really great use of color. I love the blue and the teals, that's all working. But again, familiarity, but also like this came out in Kamigawa, so you kind of see that window, and that's like a really interesting like Chinese architecture. So I guess that has something to do with it too.
Now we're to one where I am fully in support of the new version.
Yeah, I like holding true to the old art, but I mean it's definitely more visually appealing. There's a narrative. You get these like harken back to like, you know, Black Lotus, like these interesting things coming out of the cannon, the charbelcher, and there's goblins in it. Like the other one, like that could be any kind of just cannon. Like why is it a goblin charbelcher? There's no goblins in the picture, so I think goblin in the picture. I think you have to go with the goblins.
Yeah, for me, goblin cards are supposed to be kind of silly, kind of crazy and absurd, and charbelcher the original doesn't come across like that at all. There's no goblins, there's nothing goblin-y. It's actually a pretty like serious drawing of a cannon. The new one is just really funny and has a lot going on, and overall I think if you're gonna call a card Goblin Charbelcher, you gotta have goblins in it. So the new one takes the cake.
Yeah, I have to.
Now we're to the multicolor, our last section of the art review, Blood Braid Elf.
Oh. And you chose the plane chase one too. I was hoping you would choose the OR version. Make my choice easy, but I really loved the plane chase and the promo version, and I think I have to stick with it. I can't go against Steve Argyle. As much as I love the new one, and I think it would look sweet in foil. Raymond Swanlin does a great job overall. I love that old Blood Braid Elf, the promo version and the plane chase version.
I like the new one, I think, just because it captures like the hastiness of Bloodbraid Elf. It feels fast and she's
Right.
coming at you. When the old one, like the art is really cool, but she's just kind of standing around. So I'm gonna disagree on this one and go with the new version.
Yeah, definitely. Either is great. I think here.
I guess you can't really go wrong with Bloodbraid Elf either way.
No, you probably can't.
Up next, Maelstrom Wanderer.
Love Victor's portrayal of Maelstrom Wanderer. I don't even know if this is a comparison. The old one's great. It's really sweet. Probably one that people are very comfortable with for a long time. But this worm's eye view of this like massive like energy, like this twister, like this weird rock like type character, this elemental is awesome. I love the composition. I love the worm's eye view. I love just the scale of how big this thing is and just this weird like interesting landscape behind it. I love it.
I am also a fan of the new one for much like less technical reasons. I just think it looks cooler.
Yeah.
So I guess
I mean you can see that little deer in the foreground, and again it just gives you a sense of the scale of like how big this thing really is.
in the old one, I'm not really sure what's happening in that one either. It's kind of cluttered, and I'm not really, I don't really get a sense of what's supposed to be going on. When in the new one, there is much better perspective, and you get a really good look at the Wanderer.
Yeah.
Up next, Goblin Trenches.
Both really great, but I have to go with Wayne's version. I know it doesn't really depict Goblin Trenches, but more of like just a generic, like, they're all kind of marching to war, but just the expressions on their faces, and like just the absurdity, like all these goblins in like armor and like with spears and shields. It's just awesome. But the new one's great too.
I'm gonna go with Flip's version, the new version, because of the trench. Like for some reason, I get more of a sense of Goblin Trenches in that one. I do love the crazy looks on the faces of the old goblins, but I think the new goblins, they look pretty goblin-esque too, and you get the trench, so for me that makes it a winner.
Yeah.
Now, our last card of our art review, Void.
Last card.
What is in the old one?
I don't know, but I don't know what Kev Walker was doing here, but I mean, at least like it's interesting. There's like this giant mech with like a cannon on it. Like I have to go with Kev's version. Like the new one's interesting, but I don't know if that really depicts like Void for me. Like that could just be like any kind of generic spell. I know we're talking about Magic the Gathering, and that could mean a lot of different things. But I don't know. Maybe it's just so absurd. Like why is that Void? I don't know. It's just like a mech with like a cannon. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the old version is pretty funny. It's like sort of like Star Wars a little bit or something.
Yeah.
Crushing the Ewoks. I don't know. So I'm gonna go with the old version of Void. I don't know. I guess I don't have strong feelings either way.
Yeah. This one was actually tough because I don't have a strong feeling for the card in general, and that actually had to do something with it. I don't know for this particular card. But yeah, I have to go with Kev Walker's version.
Well, I guess that has been our art review.
That is it, huh?
That is it. We have gone through all the new arts from Eternal Masters. So, on the way out the door, Chaz, is there any specific card that stands out as your favorite in the set?
Might be cliche, but I think it has to be the Force of Will. It's just because Therese Nielsen did both pieces of art, and it's like, I didn't know if it was possible to outdo herself on that one, but she did it. So to me, that's like almost like a feat of strength, like a feat of like otherworldly, like absurd talent. So that just that just does it for me.
Well, actually, I'm going to go with a Nielsen card too, but a different one. I like the Control Magic.
Oh, yeah. Very good one.
That art is just so good. I guess it is Therese Nielsen Masters, as you mentioned yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah. Just an amazing job, and I don't blame you for choosing that art either. It's very good.
And the other thing I learned is the art of roots is ridiculous.
Yes, that is a great takeaway from this. Is the art of roots has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that has to rank up there. Out of all the cards we went through, probably 100 different cards between the two versions, that one clearly stuck out as the most absurd and ridiculous.
I honestly, I haven't even seen that before. So when you showed it to me, I was just like, I was beside myself. I had no idea. I was like, what? This is a card?
Apparently it is.
So great. Older cards. Gotta love them. Gotta love them.
Oh, anyway, thanks Chaz for hanging out.
Anytime.
It's been fun. Maybe next time we get a reprint set, we'll try to do something like this again.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. A lot of fun.
Definitely. Well, and thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed our art reviews. And also, if you have some favorite art or want to weigh in on which art you think is better, make sure to leave that in the comments. That would be really cool to get some other opinions and views on it.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks again for watching. Thanks, Chaz, for hanging out, and I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, everyone.